Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Ben Simmons, possibly on the trade block. Sure seems that way now that the Philadelphia 76ers have been eliminated by the Atlanta Hawks. We're going to talk about some potential landing spots and some challenges with shipping him out of Philadelphia. Joining me is Keith Smith. Keith, how are you doing, man? And how shocked are you that the 76ers are the team going home while the Hawks are moving on?
Yeah, definitely surprised. I thought Philadelphia would get that one at home and in a game seven. And, clearly Atlanta was ready for that big stage. Their young guys stepped up, their veterans made plays when they had to, and they survived a horrible shooting night from Trae Young. He played really well other than that, but and then he got it together in the fourth quarter and made a few shots. So, yeah, Atlanta moving on. We'll see. Atlanta, Milwaukee now in the East. Suns are up a game on the Clippers in the
Mhm.
West. Mostly, I'm a little sad because we're down to 20 games maximum left
Oh,
in
that
this NBA
hurts.
season. So thankfully, we've got the Olympics and then we've got the Summer League and all that stuff back to our regular lives of this year. So we'll deal with it. But that always hits me a little bit when we're down to so few games maximum left in a season. But yeah, man, it's now Ben Simmons. Let's see what happens, right? Because it's that is the hot question of the day after he pulled a complete disappearing act in the fourth quarter of this entire series and really didn't play all that impactful throughout a large chunk of the playoffs. So yeah, for Phillies, got some work to do roster wise. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, tonight, by the way, the first time in a while of no basketball. There's
I
nothing. There's
know.
nothing on. I don't know what I'm going to do with
Ooh,
myself, Keith. This is
yeah.
not good. But our topic,
We
of
should
course.
not have caught up on DVR over the weekend in the
Oh,
Smith house like we did. That was a mistake, and here we are without getting to watch. Maybe we could petition Disney to move up
please!
Loki
I
to
was
tonight.
just going to
There
say
we
that
go.
we need another
Yeah,
episode of Loki to help get us through. Keith, I know
there it
you've got the
is.
Disney connections. Let's figure out a way to get this done. We need it. But in
Called in
regards,
that favor once already.
well, we may have to go back to the well on that one. But look, Ben Simmons, we all just saw it, right? We just saw a guy who's supposed to be a point guard hiding in the dunker spot on the offensive end. The Hawks basically ignoring him. If he's got the ball, his defender is 15 feet off of him, just clogging up the paint. That's not a good look in terms of teams saying, hey, that's a guy I want to trade for. Now, don't get me wrong, he's got real skills too. He's a tremendous defender, a hellacious defender. On the break, breathtaking. You get this guy out in transition and he is dynamite. But in the half court, he's kind of a nothing, right? The other team just ignores
Yeah.
him. And then we saw him passing up a dunk. Speculation is because he didn't want to go to the free throw line, where he shot the worst free throw percentage, with certain requirements in terms of volume that we've ever seen. 34% from the free throw line in the playoffs. His value has never been lower than it is right now, and it's never been more apparent that Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as a combo does not work. So, what do the 76ers do? And Keith, I guess maybe we should start with Ben Simmons' contract. It's pretty hefty. It's not something where a team's going to go, I'll just take a flyer on him, right?
Yeah, no, definitely not. First year of the full max extension for Ben Simmons was this year, almost the full max extension. There he hit kind of that mid-range
Mhm.
qualifier for him. So he's on a 5 year, let's get the number right,
Ooh.
$177.2 million contract. So we're a year and 30.5 million into that, but now in year number two, which will be next season, 33 million next year, 35.5 the year after that, 37.9 the year after that, and then in 2024-25, $40.3 million. No options on
Wow.
that, no player options, no team options. Nobody's getting out of this thing early. With that, it's more money than you could ever possibly stretch, and he's also not that bad of a
No.
player. So let's move off of those kind of ideas. But yeah, that becomes a really difficult contract to work around. If you're Philly, he's one of three essentially max players on their roster because you also have Tobias Harris at 35.99 million. Next season, Joel Embiid at 31.6 million. We know now Embiid is eligible this offseason to tack 4 years at the supermax so-called amount on to his contract because he's eligible for that. So yeah, it's in a roster that is very, very expensive for just three players. Well up over 100 million on just those three guys alone. So that's tough. Something has to give, and I think it's probably going to be Ben Simmons that gives.
And you mentioned it. He's not as bad as what we just saw, right? Like if
Sure.
you look at this series basically, or this playoff run, you think, oh my gosh, this guy is horrible. This isn't going to work at all. He's a huge negative value contract. But this is a very small sample size, right? He's got some real qualities as well. He is not this bad. However, I think if you're a team that is looking at trading for him, there's some real concerns. You would have to be very, very careful with how you construct a roster around him if he's going to be
Yeah.
successful. And you have to make some decisions. Is he truly a point guard, or is he just a wing who happens to have ball handling skills? Is he a power forward? Is he a small ball center? You kind of have to figure out exactly how you're going to use him. You've got to put pieces around him in the right way, and you have to figure out the pieces to the salary puzzle as well, because he does take up a big chunk of your salary cap there. So, around the NBA, what do you feel is the appetite right now for teams to trade for Ben Simmons? It's certainly not where it was a year ago.
No, definitely not. It's important that we know what you talked about. This guy is the most versatile defender in the
Yes.
NBA today. We talk a lot about this guy can guard 1 through 5, but generally it's kind of, well, they can kind of hold their own on a switch against a point guard or against a center, but they're really a 2 through 4 guarding player. Simmons is a true 1 through 5 guarding player. Yes, the small, quick point guards give him trouble. Small, quick point guards give everybody
Yep.
trouble. The Kyrie Irvings, Donovan Mitchell, those kind of guys. Those guys give everybody trouble. That's why they're such good players. On the 5, he can certainly hold his own against 5s, and then anything in between, he's perfectly fine against. And we saw him do some pretty good work against Trae Young at times in this series. Now, passing, he's one of the best passers in the league. But if you're going to play him at point guard, your offense is going to struggle. I don't care how good all your players are around him, because you can't put enough shooting on the floor 1 through 4 for a primary ball handler that will not shoot. It's not that he can't shoot, he will not
Yeah.
shoot. And that is a major, major, major difference. I always go back to Marcus Smart. You know this when I talk about this. Marcus Smart is a questionable shooter at best. He's very streaky, but because he's willing to shoot, you're going to get those games where he may hit 10 three-pointers in a game.
Yeah.
And because of that, teams still guard him. There's not games where teams, walk away from him and, just let him stand out there and shoot, because he will pull the trigger. You're going to have to get up on him. And he's not so bad. Now, Simmons won't even shoot at all. I tweeted out, you can find it on my timeline on Twitter today. It's a video that Eric Fawcett put together of him knocking down 15-foot jump shots and a couple three-pointers when he was in college. So something happened when he got to the NBA game that, has made him a complete non-shooter. And passing up that dunk last night to me says he's so deep in his head now. You've got to get a fresh start. You've got to put him in a position where, hey, we're going to build this thing around you. We're going to do it very, very differently. It's going to look, different. So to me, for a team, you have to put him in the Draymond Green type of role.
Yeah.
He's not exactly Draymond Green, because Draymond Green will shoot. We know this when he's open, but you put him in that kind of role where he's a great secondary or tertiary playmaker, where you swing him the ball, he makes a play off a couple dribbles. He can do, just about anything you want to do as a passer. He can see passing lanes because he's so big that other guys can't get there. Use him as a roll man, pass off the short roll, those kind of things. That's where his next role needs to be. And you have to build out the rest of your offense with that in mind. You don't have to build it around him, but you have to build it with that in mind. And that's just not where Philadelphia is right now. They don't have a roster that's built to maximize what he can do. They're having to plug him into positions where, let's put them where they are now, where their offense bogs down and struggles at points when he's on the floor in the most important games.
Well, and I think that, like you said, you have to be careful with the pieces that you put around him. Maybe you're not building around him, but like for example, one of the trades that we've heard forever has been, oh, send him to Portland for CJ McCollum, right? CJ McCollum will come into the 76ers, give you shooting, ball handling, all those sorts of things. Yeah, but the 76 or the Blazers also have Yusuf Nurkic, right? Like you can't put Ben Simmons on the floor with the traditional big. You just can't. It barely works with Simmons by himself on the floor on the offensive end. It probably doesn't even really work because, like you said, he's not willing to shoot. It's like an extreme version of Rajon Rondo in terms of Rondo's
Yep.
hesitancy to shoot, but he will at least attempt it. Ben Simmons won't even attempt it. So if any
Yep.
team that has a traditional big, whether it's Rudy Gobert, whether it's Yusuf Nurkic, any of these guys that are non 3-point shooting bigs, pretty much cross them off the list. You can't do it. There's no way to make that work on the offensive end of the floor. So where does he go? I mean, he's talented, but what's a real landing spot for this guy?
Yeah, I'd like to see him get to somewhere a little more out of the limelight.
Mm-hmm.
The team that is it's the NBA, so you're still gonna follow it. You're gonna hear about it, right? No one escapes fully. But get him somewhere where it's not gonna be nightly on TV. Maybe they're not even a playoff team just yet. I think the team that I now like the most for him moving forward, and I think maybe there could be something that works between the two, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Because Karl Anthony Towns he's at historic levels of good for a shooting
Yes.
big. That's the how good he is there. You've got a bunch of other guards and ball handlers. Lord knows that team needs anybody who wants to play defense. They let's just say we'll be polite and say they're lacking in that. So it's so he'd be a major upgrade there. So I think you acquire him, plug him in at the 4, put all those shooters and scorers around him, and off you go. Because in that situation, I think they could maybe unlock and maximize him in a way a lot of other teams can't. Because the other thing is, it wouldn't be our show if we didn't talk about this. It's not an easy contract to move
No,
because he
it's
makes
not.
$33 million. So, that's why the CJ McCollum one, right? Like you said, everybody goes to that one instantly because there's seemingly a fit there, and Philly gets McCollum to be their point guard and, X, Y, and Z. But it's because the salaries fit.
Yeah.
You're not having to do work in the trade machine, right? It's click, click, press the button. Hey, it worked. Let's go. So that becomes, it there. I've heard people throw out, well, what about Kemba Walker? We just did a whole show
Yeah.
on Kemba Walker and now Horford getting traded for each other. That'd be, what a weird sequence of events that would be. But I don't know. I don't know that OKC is going to want to do that because if you're OKC, you're not going to send out picks with Walker
No.
to move him. That's not the world they're in. And is Philly going to send picks to get Kemba Walker? I don't think so. So that would be, that'd be very interesting there. So yeah, I like Minnesota for him. I think you could make it work in a place like Charlotte if you brought him in to be your 4-man, because you have Gordon Hayward, you have all the guards that they have that do a lot of the ball handling. It's just got to be somewhere where you can play him off the ball primarily, but then put him in positions where it's, he's the second or third guy to touch it, and he's going to make a great decision as a passer, and then hopefully build his confidence to a point where, hey, we want you taking open 10 to 15 footers. Take those. We want you driving to the basket. If you get fouled, then we'll go to the line. We're going to work on it. We're going to figure it out. Because it was only, let me pull this up to make sure I've got it right. It was only a couple years ago. He was like a 70% free throw shooter.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, even this year,
60%.
he shot 61%. Yeah. Right. So that's not nothing. His first time through the playoffs in 2017-18, in 10 games, he shot 71% from the free throw line. So he's just so deep in his head now that, this is like Nick Anderson, right? When he missed those free throws in the finals against the Rockets, the rest of his career, he couldn't make one because it just, it was constantly there, right? You miss those free throws. Let's go. So yeah, I just, you got to put him in somewhere where it's a lower pressure stakes and you can kind of let him grow into the player I think we all hoped he would grow into initially, because the reality is the contract is what it is. Yeah. That's not going to change.
Well, and that's the challenge, right? For Philadelphia in terms of what is an acceptable trade package for a guy that just a year ago you probably could have got a lot for, right? A lot
Sure.
for this guy.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at finding a team that wants him and that can make him fit, and then from there, it's coming up with the salaries that are going to work. Not to even mention bringing back something that actually helps Philadelphia stay as a contender, right? So
Yep.
working out a trade for him is not going to be easy. And like you said, with Nick Anderson, it just kind of snowballed from there, right? It got in his head. Heck, we can talk about Kwame Brown, right? There's footage of him back in high school
Yeah.
with it, his this incredible handle and hitting jumpers and all of that, and then he just got destroyed when he came to the NBA, and that skill set totally evaporated. So there has to be, if you're trading for him, you have to have some concern at least that while maybe you're buying low, you don't know for sure that this is bottom for him. It probably is. He's an incredibly talented player, but there's always that chance that there's something mentally that's going to keep him shooting poorly from the line, that's going to keep him hesitant to attack for fear of getting put on the free throw line, that's going to continue to stop him from being any kind of a presence on the offensive end of the floor when he's not in transition. And then you're going to pay over 140 million, 146 million, I think you said, over the next 4 seasons for that. There's going to be some hesitation on the part of teams that are looking to trade for him because of all of those factors.
Yeah, and you brought up Rajon Rondo
Yeah,
before, and I know there's all the jokes that he's tall Rondo and all that stuff
sure.
that gets said. And there's the reason why their jokes are there and they're kind of funny is because there's some truth to it. But Rondo was early in his career, like when Boston won in 2008, Rondo was on the attack all the time. It was only when he got to the point where he did not want to get fouled that his career trajectory completely changed. And that's what, unfortunately, I think that's where we might be with Simmons. And now he's still very young enough, as was Rondo, but Rondo never really kind of got out of it. Now, Rondo's in year 15 and still hanging around
Right.
and playing in playoff games. But, you don't want Simmons to turn into this, yeah, kind of a starter, kind of a backup kind of guy, especially not when he's making, 30, 5 million a year over the next, 4 years on average. So I think what you've got to do is you just got to figure it out to like, hey man, shoot. I don't care if you go 4 for 10, from the
Mm-hmm.
field, and I don't care if you get to the free throw line 10 times and you only make 3 of them. Like we got to get there. We got to have this because even if he's getting to the free throw line and missing, it still has the added benefit of you're drawing fouls and it's putting your team in a position to be in the bonus and all these other things. So that's where you can help that. But yeah, it's got to be the next team has to functionally build a team that can maximize him. Again, you don't have to build completely around him. You just have to build your roster with that in mind. One other thing, and this will be, I promise, this will be the shortest mini rant I'm ever going to go on.
Uh oh. Okay, I'm ready for it.
I I don't want to see any more off-season videos of non-shooters shooting and making a whole bunch of
Oh yes,
three-pointers.
please. Yes.
Show me when they actually start taking them and making them in games. Until then, I don't really care. I'm going to disregard it every time. People tweet those at me all the time, and I'm like, great, cool, big deal. Do it in a game. Do it in a summer league game, even something.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's a competitive environment and it's not just you one on one. Because where you and I have been to so many NBA games, and in there early, every single one of these guys can shoot.
Yeah.
It is times in those one player warm ups where it's almost unbelievable if they miss, because they're just taking wide open jump shots with no defense and all that stuff. So that's I promise that was my short mini rant. That's it. I'm done.
No, you're absolutely right. You watch the players warm up. Dwight Howard, his warm up involves shooting threes, and he makes a
Yeah.
lot of them, like a lot of them. The first name that popped into my head when you said that was Willie Cauley Stein. You go back to the pre-draft period of that year, and suddenly he's shooting threes, and everybody's like, "Oh man, can he shoot threes now? Is he a stretch player?" No, it's because it's an empty gym, right? Like it's totally different when you're in a game and you're actually
Yeah.
defended. So let's wait for a guy like Ben Simmons till he can actually start doing it in games. And I think it's really, I mean, at this point, probably unlikely that he will eventually
Yeah,
start shooting
he's
those
never
in
gonna
games.
shoot 3 pointers.
It's just not
Yeah.
there.
I just want him to take the 10 to 15 footers.
Yes.
Those I think he can, 2 dribbles and a pull up. Those I think he can make. Like we've seen, I don't even say we think he used to make them. So either he's so deep in his head that he won't and can't, or that's still there and it just needs to be unlocked again. I just think in this environment in Philadelphia, it has become so tough for
Mm-hmm.
him where if he misses those, it's like he missed, twice or three
Yes, right.
times. Every time he misses, because then you're going to hear, well, why didn't the ball go to Harris or Embiid or Curry? You're wasting possessions every time you shoot. That's why I wanted to see him go somewhere lower pressure, where then I think, it's either he's got to be like your fifth or sixth best guy. That's really tough on the contract he's on, or he goes somewhere he's your second or third best guy, but it's a low pressure development type situation, because I think that's what he needs. One other thing that I want to factor in, because
Huh?
I'm not hearing enough people talk about it, is health.
Yeah.
This is a guy who missed his entire rookie season. He missed all of last year's playoffs. I know they got swept, but they probably would have maybe been in longer had he been available. So that's he
That's
was
something.
healthy this year, but back injuries, those are always, they worry me. I mean, I'm a kid who grew up on Larry Bird, right? So, back injuries ruined Larry Bird's career, and he was done years before he probably should have been. So those things always kind of worry me some, but that's just something to keep in mind too, because that's going to be part of the evaluation. If you're on the other side, it's going to be like, I don't know, is he healthy? Is he going to stay healthy? You're going to be throwing that back at Philly to try to get them to either take a little less or pay a little more to get off it. But yeah, that Philly team, they've got a lot of questions
Yeah, they
now
do.
to answer, because it's even beyond Simmons. It's, what do you do with Tobias Harris? I know he had probably his best year, but he had a couple games where he kind of disappears still at times. Tobias Harris is the epitome of I had the GM say to me once is, never, it wasn't about Tobias Harris, but I think he fits this, is player scores 40 points one night and zero the next, is a 20-point per game scorer. And there's a lot of truth to
Yep.
that, where there's times when you don't know he's out there. But yeah, but Simmons specifically, yeah, it becomes a little interesting as you start looking, who could those teams be? Could Indiana make
Sure.
a play? They've got some salaries they could send Philly's way to do that. I know Philly fans love Malcolm Brogdon, would love to have him there, and I think he'd fit. And I think that's it. If you're Philly, you've got to figure out a way to get your point guard in
In
there,
the
because
deal.
I like Tyrese Maxey. I like George Hill. Maybe he can get by for a year with those two kind of running the point, but I think you'd like to upgrade a little bit at that spot, and have somebody a little more established. And I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, get a point guard, put Thibault in the starting lineup for Danny Green and go. Thibault had his challenges
Yeah.
too. He wasn't always great in the postseason. So, there are a lot of questions about that Philadelphia team now moving forward.
So let's finish with this then. Percentage chance that on opening night this next season, Ben Simmons is still in a 76ers jersey.
Less than 10.
Okay. I'm with you. I was gonna say
Yeah, and
I was gonna
I
say
don't
five.
put yeah, and I don't put chances of trades happening that high. But yeah, I think 90% or more he's gone.
Yeah.
I just, especially to the comments that Doc Rivers made,
Oof.
Joel Embiid
Yeah.
made,
Rough.
they never really full. I mean, Doc did because he was asked directly, but Embiid didn't say Simmons's name. But we all know who he was talking about when he talked about passing up a dunk and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Like, yeah, I don't know how you come back from that. There's things that every once in a while there's things that get said that can't be unsaid. I think we passed that threshold last night.
Yep. So now we are going to be on Ben Simmons' watch. We'll see where he winds up. Sure seems like he's going to be traded somewhere. It's going to be on Daryl Morey to figure out exactly where he's going to go and what deal is going to work for the 76ers. But viewers, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget, subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. We appreciate all the new subscribers we've gotten recently. Make sure you do subscribe and turn on notifications. And fire it off in the comments down below. Where do you think Ben Simmons is going to wind up? Till next time, see ya and stay safe.